Hey guys, what's happening? Stephen Howell here, and I have my good friend Isaiah Ford, and he is a past student of mine. And so we have a little content piece here for you guys today, just kind of impromptu, and I'm going to go ahead and upload this onto the YouTube channel. And so we've been getting a lot of questions about, case studies, and I want to give you guys a real world example of someone who's out there making things happen and who just crushed out a really good wholesale deal and who's doing some awesome things on social media. So Isaiah, man, tell the people here on YouTube and whoever's watching this video a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here too. I'm really excited to kind of share my story. So my name is Isaiah Ford. Some people, when you guys follow me, I go by Zay the Barber on Instagram and YouTube. But kind of just to give a little bit of backstory of kind of how I met with Steve I was interested in real estate at the time. I was a full-time barber. Kind of just reading through some great personal development books that kind of intrigued me, and I kind of wanted to learn about ways that I can create wealth or just an income that is beyond just self-employment. And I came across a couple of the blueprint on YouTube. They had you had the 3-step to wholesaling, which is a great video, by the way. And I watched the video, and I watched a whole bunch of different guys, different mentors, guys that are in the real estate game, and came across Steve's, signed up for the blueprint, and kind of for the first couple of months it was there's the struggles in everything that you're trying to learn. It was definitely something that I was trying to learn, at the same time managing time, at the same time battling fears, and it's a complete full process trying to learn anything that's new. And so kind of like how I came across my first deal, it took me a lot longer than I expected. There's I'm gonna put everything out there in front of you guys so that you guys can really learn from some of my mistakes or some of the the struggles that I went through. But we was working with Steve for maybe about 6 months before I got my first deal, and some of the things that kind of took a while was, I think, and for anybody who's watching this, is sometimes laying the foundation right the first time is what can get you in order to go faster. So they always have the philosophy of if you want to go fast, go slow. Go slow as possible. Lay each brick down as perfectly as possible. And I think through those times I was being inconsistent. I was doing the certain steps. I was doing, maybe 4 out of 5 of the steps instead of all of the steps. Mm-hmm. And once I fully just locked in, and just really engaged myself with doing all the things, mailing out mailing out to all the attorneys, mailing out to all the executors, giving everybody a phone call, giving everybody a follow-up phone call. 2 weeks later, giving everybody, another follow-up phone call, and just really getting down to the system is when I started to see results. They always say if you're trying to see results, better results in, the things that are going on around you, you need to change the things that are going on within you. And so, I started to change the things that were going on within the business, within the structure, following the system that Stephen was, put out for us, as far as the blueprint. And it was actually a referral, seller. It was somebody who was through a probate, and I followed up with her multiple times. Okay. I consider maybe like 2 or 3 months in, of just engaging with her, mm-hmm. and eventually she ended up not wanting to sell. But I put her in a position to where I was, working with her. And I was, asking, building rapport. I was asking a lot of great questions. I was being a respectable person. I was, engaging them. I was building their motivation. Mm-hmm. I was doing everything right. And she actually was like, you know what? I'm thinking I'm actually just going to keep my house. And, in some shape or form, that kind of, kind of like where I was like, man, I thought this was going to be something that was, something I could really work with. But I kept moving forward, and I ended up getting a call from them a month later saying that her brother actually needs to sell a property, and he needs to sell it fast. and it came in with almost like, it was like I've never seen such a motivated seller like this before. It was like,
That's
you know,
awesome.
when you see a motivated seller, you're like, you know, when Stephen, when you describe a motivated seller, you can finally know what they actually, you know, the characteristics, what financial things are going through, what type of stress they're going through, and from there, I was able to just walk them through the process, close up the deal, and I ended up finding a buyer for the deal. I believe through it was through a Craigslist ad.
Okay.
So I did my Craigslist ads. I did there's like a real estate group on Facebook in Sacramento. So I posted that one on there, and then I also did mailing, and then I did the bandit signs in the neighborhood. So I did the four strategies for that one. And I ended up getting a lot of phone calls afterwards. And that's kind of how I kind of built some of my buyers list as well for more deals to come, is just by marketing it out to so many people that when it does close, you can say, look, you know, I can add you to the buyers list. And we closed with them, and it was actually somebody who had private funding, but it was somebody who was credible to somebody one of it was actually a family friend who told me that this person was very credible in the industry. So I was like, okay, I can do a private funding, and then we just did the closing up through the title, and it closed up in about 7 days, I want to say.
Okay.
And it worked. You know, through that whole process, it was very nerve-wracking. It was like, you bring up all these type of ideas in your head of what could go wrong sometimes, and so sometimes through that process, you just gotta be calm and just let everything happen, you know, and just have faith with what you're doing and the work that you put in. But it was a good experience because I was able to see almost every step of just like everything. You know, I saw, you know, what it's like to try to get a seller to sign, you know what I mean, within a short period of time.
Right.
Because sometimes, you know, some of these people probably have never really sold a house before, especially through this untraditional route. So you kind of have to, you know, spoon feed in a way and help them, you know, sell their house in an untraditional route. Most of them are used to dealing with the realtor, you know, so it was almost like I had to deal with that. There was the struggle of finding a buyer at first, because I actually had it on Craigslist for like 3 or 4 days. And this whole like 3 or 4 days was just a stressful 3 or 4 days, because I'm like, I'm not getting what I expected.
Yeah.
But it, you know, by the 3rd or 4th day, all of a sudden, all these guys are coming in asking for the property. I don't know what it was, but I guess it was just, you know, within that 3 days, it took some time. And I think even, you know, like Stephen, we were talking about before this, is when you kind of pinpointed something. You know, there is a struggle of being young, going into real estate. You know, you have those fears of being young. That was probably like the biggest thing, because I started the course when I was 19, turned 20 throughout the process, and just kind of like the struggle of just being young. Sometimes people, when you meet them, they kind of, you know, not look down on you, but they question your moves a lot more, because they see a level of inexperience. And so I had to keep my composure through the whole process. Because I did, you know, when we showed the house a couple of times, I received a lot of questions. And it wasn't that I was receiving a lot of questions that actually mattered. It was more of that they were trying to test my experience level within that process. But I mean, I felt like I was really taught really well through the course. And I think that's the level that I got from the mentoring and from the course, is the fact that I was able to be well knowledgeable in, you know, different areas of the business, to where when I was going into the property, I can say things like, like, you know, give them details a little bit about the property, give them a little bit of background, you know, kind of like how when we fill out the email letter to other investors, you can tell them things like when the house was built, you know, the HVAC, all these different things, the foundation. You're able to talk about those things because you know it.
Absolutely.
And these are all things that you kind of taught me in a way that I was able to just take it on. And even just being, you know, young African American, you know, there's a whole bunch of stigmas that you can think of, but it really realized that it's not really about, you know, your outside forces. It's really about just how you feel inside and how you approach things in your perspective within yourself.
Yeah.
And so when I learned to just kind of dive into those things, I was really able to, you know, expand and really get what I want. And now I'm in a position to where, you know, my barber business is important to me and real estate is important to me too. So it's like I'm learning to just move forward with both.
Absolutely, man. That's super inspiring. And you touched on like a ton of really good things that I definitely want to circle back to. You know, the age, you know, there's a lot of different things that, you know, I've talked with so many people over the years, and it's very common. Like, you know, sometimes we think that we're too young or too old, or there's different things that are going on, dialogue in our own minds, you know, our own things that we're self-conscious about that, you know, can sometimes get the better of us. And we'll kind of circle back to that. So what Isaiah is talking about here, guys, when he started with me, a few months after getting rolling, you know, he got this deal, and this was it ended up being a $17,500 wholesale deal, right?
Yeah.
And so on my screen here, we got a little check here so you guys can see that we're not just making up these numbers. He closed out this July, this past summer, and here's a pic of Isaiah with the bends there as well. So kudos to you, man. That's absolutely incredible. But yeah, so tell us, man, the first time that you got, when you got this lead and you, like you mentioned, they started to finally say some things where there's like, okay, there is some motivation here. They actually might want to sell. And then like when you first started to get the deal under contract, what was that like when you finally got this deal under contract and you realized like, man, this is different than some of the other leads maybe I've been working in the past? What was that like for you?
It was a different feeling because I had gotten a deal under contract previously, or I was actually, you know, I had a verbal commit as far as, you know, signing the paperwork and all that with the previous lead that didn't end up going through. And it was almost like how you talk, you know, just cool, calm, and collective of just like, you know, I received it and I was just like, okay, what's the next step? I wasn't like overly excited, and I wasn't like, you know, I was more of just like, okay, what's this next move? And I did that perfectly because I wanted to put myself in a position of just going through the whole process until the end. So I think sometimes you know, when you get some type of achievements or anything like that, you don't always end up following through each step. So I just wanted to lay each brick down perfectly as possible. So I had that mindset when I got it. It was just like, okay, what's the next step? What do I need to communicate with the seller? Okay, now how do I get this contract off of me to a buyer?
Yeah.
And so, and it was and I was, you know, working like 60 hours in the shop. You know, so I only had maybe a couple of hours at night and in the morning to really put things together. So it was almost like I was moving against time, but I also didn't have much time. So it was you know, it was nerve-wracking. It was a struggle, but it was definitely exciting through the process. It was definitely something that I was like, wow, this is everything that everything I was working for.
Absolutely.
You know?
So you bring up a couple of really good things, and then what I want to do, if you remember the numbers, I want to kind of ask you, like, what was the value of the property? What did you get it for? What did you sell it for on the back end? That type of thing, and then I have a couple of other questions for you as well that I think will be good.
So I put it in contract for 157.5, 57,500, and then the value of the house was I believe was 300.
Okay.
I believe it was like 290, 300 at the time. The value of the house went up for throughout the process. So I'm not sure if it was maybe like 280, 290. But then I sold the deal for 175.
Okay.
And the repairs on the property were roughly around, you know, 40 to 50, you know, 50,000 in repairs. It was one of the struggles of getting this deal off was the fact that it was a converted converted bedroom. So it was originally a garage, and they converted it into a bedroom. It needed to be converted back into a bedroom, and that was a difficult thing for me to get off because certain investors were not really interested in the deal because of that. So it was like I was hurdling over the fact of selling something with almost like a bruised leg.
Right.
It was like I'm trying to get something off, but people want a traditional 3-bedroom, 2-bath with no type of issues with it or anything like that. So when that happened, it was something that I had to work towards. So it ended up being where they have to convert it back to a 2-in-1, and we all know that a 2-in-1, bedroom to bathroom is not really something that everybody is looking for.
Yeah. And
those are certain things that it was kind of difficult, but it was just working, staying focused, and working through the plan.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So like a lot of times, 2 beds, 1 bath we have to be more conservative in our offer price. And a lot of times people are like, well, those are tough to wholesale. And it's true. We do need to come in more conservative. But some of my bigger deals, some of my $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 deals have been with 2-1. So it's not always like, there's not always one specific way to go, and that's where it's helpful to be able to talk through the details of a deal. And I remember, just to compliment you, Isaiah, like one thing that you were really awesome at is like you would just be focused on like the next leg of the journey. Like, yeah, there was a million things going on, but I just remember the questions would be about that next specific thing. You were constantly focused on, okay, well, what's the next little thing? And that's, when I look back over the years with some of my most successful students, that's like one of the key things. It's like the ability to focus on like one thing at a time. And another thing I want to touch on is, so I just, while you were talking there, I went ahead and put the numbers up on my screen. So, sometimes people think, well, hey, you're out in California, number one, how can you compete with such a hot market out there? But, one of the things that's kind of trendy is like, even with wholesalers, that you got to get houses for a lot higher under contract. But if it's worth $290 to $300, and you got this deal for $157.5K, that's almost 50 cents on the dollar, which if you told that to, any regular investor, in California, they'd probably say, well, people don't get deals for 50 cents on the dollar here. So I think that's just a powerful lesson that like, and I remember myself like going to investor club meetings and, I was doing $25,000 deals, and other wholesalers and other investors are kind of like, shaking their head like, like, man, it's tough out here to get a $3,000 deal. So it's good to get inspiration from people, but if you listen to like what's the norm, like you don't always want to let other people tell you what's possible, because this just goes to show you that you can do some of those things. Yeah. And so kind of on that topic, Isaiah, like what would you say to, there's going to be a lot of people watching this video, and I'm so grateful that you came out to share your story, because I know that it's going to inspire a lot of people. So, I look at your situation and I get asked all the time, Stephen, what's the like 1 or 2 things that you've seen from your successful students versus, somebody who just kind of puts their toes in the water, or maybe they get results, maybe they don't. And I think this is a great example. So I want to kind of flip this around a little bit. And, Isaiah, when you got started, you could have said, well, hey, like, I have a barbershop like business. Like I'm barbering 50 to 60 hours a week. I'm 19 years old. I'm about to turn 20. Like, who's going to take me serious? I'm in California, which is a smoking hot market. Like, how in the world am I ever going to stand out? Like, how in the world am I ever going to compete? So what would you say to the person that, is having some internal doubts? Maybe they think they're too young, they're too old, they work too much, they have, maybe a full-time job, or they think they're in a saturated market. Is there anything specific that like you kept telling yourself, or just, what would you say to a person who maybe has some of those doubts?
Yeah, so it's definitely like, the scarcity mentality and being an entrepreneur is definitely one of the hardest things to battle with. And being a barber, I kind of learned some of that from there. It was the, I've dealt with that in another industry. So I think the biggest thing is that sometimes it's all mindset. you always talk about how to engage yourself into personal development books, Think and Grow Rich, all these books. All these books are just trying to teach manifestation. They're trying to teach that if, whatever you believe, it'll become, and it'll become in its physical presence. So it's kind of like if you believe that you're inferior and you believe that, you're 19 and you believe that, you're not able to enter into this market, things won't go your way. But when I believed that I was and I had the confidence level of saying that I'm about to be 20 years old, but I think that this is going to be the industry that I can succeed in, and I believed it, everything starts to happen in the way that you want to. And I think you even said it as far as when you were talking about the bandit sign situation. Everybody's putting these bandit signs up. Everybody's, putting these Google, these AdWords up. Everybody's putting up Facebook ads. But what separates the people is just who can consistently do them. And somebody may call the other sign, 3 out of the other 10 times, and somebody may call you the other, 3 times, and somebody else the other 3 times. Yep. But it's like if you can just show up. Sometimes the biggest thing you can do is just show up. Other people will fall off.
Absolutely.
While you're consistently sending out your follow-ups and you're 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 follow-ups in, people already quit at 3.
Yeah.
That's how I got the lead with the first one is that I followed up with the sister for so long that no other investors were really talking to her anymore. Mm-hmm. I became the primary salesperson. I became the primary focus of who they'll do business with. And another thing too is people do business with who they like and trust. Mm-hmm. If you can become more of a likable and trustworthy person, it doesn't matter if there's 100 people. If you're the person that they like and they're the person that they want, they're going to do business with you. Mm-hmm. Even if you guys offered the same exact price. It's almost like if we offered the same thing, what everybody else is offering with, what makes them decide who to go do business with is who they like and who they trust. So if you can develop some of those, just the characteristics, the personality, the mindset, there's money to be eaten for all of us. There's enough, money on the table for everybody to really win. And so if you can get away from the scarcity mentality, there's really never an issue. It's just, staying focused and just doing what's in front of you. Do what you can do. Do the steps, and it's a system that's been proven so many times that if you just do the system, it'll work out.
Absolutely, man.
I think when I was in high school, I did some internet marketing type MLM
yeah,
just starting out, but not really. I think even kind of how you talked about it, I'm still an introvert type of person.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I've been around so much. I think and this speaks to everybody who's probably an introvert. Sometimes you just gotta own it. But what I've learned is sometimes I've been in so many environments where I have to get out of my shell. Mm-hmm. That I've learned how to, manage it. I've learned how to, just, get myself out of those states. So I think probably the hardest thing in the entire business is making phone calls. That was my hardest thing because I was an introvert. I didn't really want to sit there and call people. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't know what I was going to be saying. I didn't, sometimes when I first started, I would stutter. And it was a real battle because I was so young. People could probably hear that I was young on the phone. But it's if you could just, everything comes with mastery. Every master was once a beginner. So it's if you want to become good at marketing, you just got to study and keep mastering it. If you want to become a salesperson, you just got to keep studying it and mastering it. And I think with real estate, it wasn't something that I knew about. It wasn't something that I knew anything about. Yeah. It was just something that over time, you just got to keep learning, you got to keep mastering it, and you just got to master yourself.
Absolutely, man. So what I want to do here is for those of you who are just, checking, and for those of you who are checking this out for the first time and you don't know who in the world I am, I don't like spending a ton of time talking about myself because, I just don't like that. I don't want to hype up myself. You guys can make the determination if this is valuable or not. But my name is Stephen Howell, and over the last 4 years, I have taught students all over the country the art of real estate investing, specifically wholesaling houses, and how to acquire deeply discounted real estate, even if you have no real estate background license. And one of the things I'm kind of known for is helping people to do things with a very lean and minimal budget. And we focus on larger spread wholesale deals. So like, you know, Isaiah's deal, $17,500. That is very common with the way that I teach how to do this. And a lot of times it's about zigging while everyone else is zagging, and having just a little bit of a twist and a little bit of a strategy. So if you guys want more information, I'll mention this at the end, but I'm just going to toss it out right now. You can go to two places, and they'll be in the link in the description for this video. Number one, if you have any interest in one-on-one mentoring, you can go over to 𝐶𝐨𝐻owellmentoring.com, and I definitely encourage you to check out the full website there. There's a video of me, and you can also apply beneath that. And what I offer, you know, no strings attached, is a free one-on-one strategy session where we talk for about 30 or 45 minutes about where you're at, what you're struggling with, what you want to accomplish, and exactly, you know, how we can come up with a plan to get there. And basically, I partner up with you for an entire year, and I help you through your first 5 deals. So that is the most personal and intimate access to me possible. So you can apply there. I do have a little bit of availability right now. And for those of you who are watching this, it's about to be tax time. And I know I've had a ton of people reaching out that are talking about, hey, like, I want to finally, like, I've been going to free seminars and I have all the value, like all the knowledge in the world, but I don't have anyone to hold my hand. This might be something for you, so certainly you can check that out. And then like Isaiah, he started with my product, my video step-by-step wholesaling course that's literally A to Z, and that's also in the link in the description, and you can check that out. So depending on where you're at and what type of personal help you need, either of those options could be a great fit. But just a couple of mercifully brief facts, again, if you're checking this video out for the first time. So I am the creator of one of the #1 videos on YouTube of wholesaling real estate, how to wholesale real estate step by step. It has, at this time, I think over 126,000 views. And I'll just show you here on my channel real quick so you know that I'm telling the truth. 126,000 views here. Definitely encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to do daily uploads. Right now I'm averaging about 3 or 4 uploads a week. And here, as we get through tax season and I wrap up a couple projects, it's going to be daily uploads. So a ton of free content and value. For the past 7 years, I've been just all over real estate, marketing, branding. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on courses and programs and coaching and all sorts of things. And I also do some guest posting for realestatemogul.com and REI Tips. They've asked me to come out and kind of teach their communities a little bit. So anyways, that's just a little fun fact about me. But the one-on-one mentoring and the blueprint evolved actually from one-on-one mentoring and so many students asking questions and me just kind of thinking like, oh my gosh, that's a good question, I should record a video. So that's how that kind of organically developed, and that's why, you know, it's so successful and I have such a high success rate at teaching people how to do real estate and stuff. I just want to share you guys as a little bit of social proof, in case you're wondering just a little bit about, you know, a little bit more about me. Here on the screen, I just wanted to share a couple of pics from my wife and I's vacation. We went down to Destin and did some deep sea fishing there in Florida. It was one of our bucket list items. You know, when I finally got my real estate business up and running and rocking, my wife had always wanted to deep sea fish. I always wanted to deep sea fish. So for us to actually go do that, here's a few pictures on my screen of that vacation and of us heading down there on the beach, catching some incredible fish. Here's a couple more images and stuff of us and stuff. So just wanted to share a little bit about that personal side, that like when you do get going in this business, when you get laser focused, it's not that it's going to happen overnight, but like Isaiah shared, you know, he kind of stuck with it and just started doing one thing after the next thing, and the stuff started to compound, and over time he was able to get results. And I just want you guys to see how possible, you know, it is. So the link to the blueprint, and I've put together 4 really powerful bonuses. You can click the link below this video to check that out, see all the details, what's included, what you're getting. I don't want to take a ton of time on this video to talk about that, but that's one of the best places you could start. And then if you want to take things to the extreme hand-holding level, I do have a few spots in my one-on-one mentoring, and you can head over here to Stephen Howell Mentoring, and right when you go to the page, I'll pause the video. There's a video that's going to play.
All right.
And you can fill out the application, and I offer a free one-on-one strategy call. And then you'll also be subscribed to my email newsletter, which I give a ton of free powerful content as well, even if you don't decide to become a mentoring student. So I promise I'm not just going to be hounding you to, you know, buy. I do lead with a ton of value, and regardless, I've had countless people come on and be like, you know, man, I've done my first deal just off of your free content alone. So those are the 2 ways that you can kind of get started rocking and rolling with me. Be sure to also subscribe to the YouTube channel here as well, because like I said, I'm coming out with a ton of great content. But yeah, man, I want to pass it over to you, Isaiah, with one final question here, man. So if you had an aspiring real estate investor, brand new wholesaler, maybe they're experienced, maybe they're brand new, or just an entrepreneur, maybe they want to get into barbering and kind of follow in your footsteps, and they can't seem to get anything working, like they just can't seem to get any traction, and maybe they've tried a few things, maybe they have invested into a course, maybe they've gone to a seminar, maybe they've gone to a couple of like barbering battles and stuff like that. They're inspired, but like they just don't know where to start. They're spinning their wheels. What would you say to him or her that's kind of going through that experience right now?
Just accept what you don't know, and just kind of like have that debrief of just, you know, sometimes what I do is just I'll write down on a piece of paper what I don't know about this business. You know, what do I need to know more of? And just kind of just seek more knowledge. You know, keep trying to like learn. You know, we talked about how, you know, Steve was telling me about how he spent years on learning about marketing, you know, informational product. You know, spent time learning about real estate business. And when you spend those times learning it, you become more comfortable with doing it. And then you just got to go out there and practice it. It's not like you're never gonna be perfect. You're not gonna. There's like this battle of just like making mistakes through the whole process. I still make mistakes through every business that I do now. It's like I'm never gonna reach perfection, but striving for perfection, you'll land on excellence. You'll land on greatness. So it's like if you can just keep striving to just apply yourself, and to just keep learning, you know, everything is going to happen for you. It's not like a thing that you can just stamp on and just be like, okay, I finally made it. I've known everything. There's never that there's never that epiphany moment of where you just be like, okay, now I got it, I made it. It's that whole process of trial and error. There's still things that I have not seen yet, and that I'm going to have to trial and error with. And so if you continue to just have that mindset of just go out there and just trial and error, make mistakes, own them, and feel comfortable, and another thing is like, it's just having the mindset of just like not necessarily being nonchalant, but it's like just oozing with confidence when you talk about, it's just like you may not. If you could just go and put your best foot forward and just have the confidence, and when you make the mistake, just own it and just move on and brush it off. Brushing it off is probably the best thing that you could probably have as a mindset when you're an entrepreneur, because there's going to be so many brutal things that you may hear from people, so many things that, you know, these obstacles that you get, you know, especially one of the biggest things that I have to deal with social media wise, being a barber, is the fact that there's so many eyes watching, that there's a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of negative comments. There's a lot of negative things about me. And it's not that I'm a bad person. It's just that's what happens when you start winning more. More and more people are going to have more eyes on you. More and more people are going to have opinions, and that's okay. You got to learn to not try to control it. You got to learn to let these outside forces be what they are, and just learn to control yourself and learn how to move forward and brush it off with a nonchalant attitude. It's just being optimistic and not letting things affect you. So that's my biggest thing I could say as far as like getting started. Is just dive in. Like, really just dive in, you know, really 10 toes down, just really dive into what you're doing. And eventually you'll see results, and there's going to be a whole bunch of blemishes along the way. You know, I didn't get anything that I ever earned without blemishes. Each time I probably walked out with a whole bunch of scratches. And that's just the fight of being an entrepreneur. But that should also bring the excitement. You know, that's what brings my most excitement, knowing that I've been through so much, and now I'm able to just give all these, you know, the struggles and the pains and the things that I overcome to other people. Yeah. And you should have the same attitude that I'm going to get through this so other people can get through it as well.
That's super inspiring, Isaiah, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate your time too today and jumping on here, man, and talking. It's been so much fun. So guys, again, make sure to go follow Isaiah. He's 20 years old. He is a barber out in Sacramento, California, full-time business, killing it, 6 figures. He just talked about how he did his first $17,500 deal, has 2 more in the works. He had no real estate license or background or super sales experience. And I agree with what you're saying, man. Like, you know, like we've talked about, like naturally you tend to be more of an introvert, and believe it or not, I do too. But it's that ability to just act in spite of fear, to be able to just be like, you know what? I can't tell you how many situations when I've either been on a phone call or in person or whatever, where it's like people who know me like personally, like I can be like a goofball, I can be a little weird, a little awkward, like, but like you just kind of like own it and you embrace it, and you're like, who cares if I look silly? Who cares if I look stupid? It's not going to be perfect. But people, you know, they don't mind that vulnerability, that authenticity, because so many people are trying to fake it and be this perfection level, and it's unattainable. But if you, like you said, if you could just put your best foot forward, keep moving, amazing things can happen. So man, that's all I have planned for this. I hope you guys here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this got a ton of value. Please be sure to comment below, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. More of these coming up, and that's all, guys. So thank you so much.
Yep, I appreciate everybody for watching, and I guess follow me on social media, Zay the Barber. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I'll hit you up here soon. Great stuff, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?